Alright, today we're going to do a rig rundown for all of the gear John Mayer used for the Power of Love Gala on February 18th. I'm sure if you're a John Mayer fan, you've seen clips and images from this private event that happened, and John's tone that he got during the show was really awesome, and it's going to be really interesting as well to take a look at the pedal board because there's some changes to the typical pedal board you'd expect him to bring for a performance like this. So let's get into this rig rundown. So starting off with the most important piece here, and of course it's going to be the jacket, right? From Neighborhood, it's absolutely fantastic looking. But actually, let's talk about the amp setup first here. Now, the two amps that John was using was the Fender Vibroverb paired with Dumbaland Special serial number 006. Now, the Vibroverb, I've done a whole actual video dedicated just to John's use of this amplifier, so go check that out if you guys haven't already. But that is pretty much a given for a performance like this. John's only performing a couple of songs, and of course he gets on stage with everyone kind of near the end of the night, I believe is how it worked. I haven't seen footage of the entire night, obviously. But the Vibroverb is just a given. It's kind of his go-to for smaller guest performances. But what's really cool is he paired it with Dumbaland Special, serial number 006, of course, and that was in his Dumble 112 cabinet that we know has an EV speaker in it. The combination of these two amplifiers led to a really great tone from John for the night. Now, while this exact amp combination is interesting, it does remind me of the one that he used for the Sob Rock promotional television performances, where he had the Fender Vibroverb, he had Steel String Singer 004, and then he also had an old school 2-Rock custom reverb signature on top of this exact same 112 Dumble cabinet. Now, it's kind of a very similar approach in the amplifiers. Again, the Vibroverb being a 1x15-inch speaker in it, and then using a 112 for the Dumble. Again, you're only getting one speaker for each amplifier, so you're not pairing the Vibroverb with like a 212, for example, but you're getting that blend of Dumble and Fender together, which really is a huge part of John's magic amp combination, if you want to call it like that. Of course, the 2-Rock kind of sits in the middle of that, kind of blending the best of both worlds. But overall, really cool to see Dumbaland Special used in this context. It'd be really interesting to see if he does something like this again in the future. Part of me is kind of wondering why he didn't choose one of the Steel String Singers for this performance and opted for the Dumbaland instead. But who knows, maybe the Dumbaland Specials we're going to actually see incorporate a little bit more into John's own solo tours on his own for his mainline band, if that makes sense, instead of just mainly used with Dead & Company. Moving on to the pedal board. Now, when the footage from this night first started coming out and you saw some just side shots of the board, I initially assumed that this was probably going to be identical to John's B-Rig pedal board that he had during the Sob Rock era. Really for any performances that he was either a guest for or just smaller shows that he performed, this pedal board had essentially all of his essentials on it, and he was able to perform really anything that he needed to in his catalog and get all the tones he would really ever need. None of the over-the-top extra stuff that he needs for a big world tour. However, we got a really good shot, actually, of the front of the board, and there definitely are some changes that I was not expecting. Now, the first three pedals, there's really no surprise. He has a polytune on his board, which we know for whatever reason, it's his electric tuner of choice. He really likes to stick with the Boss TU series tuners for acoustic performances, but he's got a Polytune 3 on the pedal board, along with an exotic super clean boost, and then he also has a V1 Keeley Katana. So two different boosts there, just for use maybe different settings or different contexts of when he's going to use either one of them. I know the exotic super clean has actually become very, very popular with a lot of John Mayer fans for a very good reason. Now, with the drive section of the pedal board, this is where things got a little bit more interesting. So a TS10's on his pedal board, that's, a given, right? But then he has his Klon Centaur on the pedal board, where on his B-Rig for the Sob Rock era, he had the J-Rocket Archer Jeff Beck mod version. Because John has even come out and said he only has one Klon Centaur, and he just uses the same one and moves it from board to board, from rig to rig, which is really interesting. So he put his Klon Centaur back on the pedal board, and then the next pedal, the third overdrive, which is a topic I'm going to cover on the channel in the near future here. So subscribe to the channel if you guys want to be in the loop of when that video comes out. Because the third drive is a really interesting topic when it comes to John's gear. He's using the 10 years, the decade pedal in the third overdrive slot. Now, during the Sob Rock era, John would sometimes use the Decade as the actual main drive pedal for Last Train Home. And that is why I believe this pedal wound up on the board. John knew in advance that he's going to be performing Last Train Home as well as Gravity, so he decided to purposefully put this pedal on the board for those lead tones. Moving on to the back row, and another kind of interesting thing, but it's to be expected, is a Way Huge Octopus Mark II. John really does seem to just use the Mark II Octopus on his smaller pedal boards instead of the Mark I, which, I don't know, that's kind of an interesting thing where he'll put the Klon Centaur on his pedal board and swap that on when he's not doing a world tour, but a Mark I Octopus he doesn't, even though he pretty much always uses a Mark I for a big world tour. So just something interesting there with his pedal selections on this pedal board here, which is kind of, I'm just thinking about. Then the next pedal we have is the blacked out Boss CE2, which of course you guys heard for Last Train Home's chorus sound. To round off delay, we have a Providence Chrono delay, which for a while now has been John's main go-to digital delay, especially with the screen on it and the tap tempo function. It's just a really overall good delay pedal. Then he has the New Neighbor Illumin, of course, for just larger reverb sounds. And then finally, the last pedal is the Strymon Flint, which of course would have been used for Gravity with that harmonic tremolo settings. Now I want to talk about the pedals that we probably heard for both of the performances of Last Train Home and Gravity. So for Last Train Home, obviously John was using the Boss CE2 for the chorus effect for that song. That's what he used on the record, in fact, and that's what he always used live. Now, the Providence Chrono delay was probably on as well. During the whole Sob Rock tour, John always had delay going as well for those parts he plays during Last Train Home. For the drive part of the song, for the drive section, now, I'm going to go with probably the 10 Years of the Decade was what he was using again, because that's a very specific pedal that was used in the context of his rig during the Sob Rock tour, and he put it on this board.
You gotta hold me next to you, yeah.
It would make almost no sense for him not to use it on the board. And again, we know that he used it for Last Train Home for the Sob Rock tour. So that's what I'm going to pretty much say was the main drive tone for the song. Then, of course, he was probably stacking the TS10 into the 10 Years a Decade is what I believe he probably would have been doing. It's possible he was doing the TS10 and the Klon and the 10 Years, all three of them on, but I think the most likely version of this is the TS10 into the 10 Years of the Decade, but again, could be all three. Now we're going to discuss Gravity here, and as John is soloing before launching into Gravity, he steps on the TS10 in this footage you guys can see during this part of the solo, and I just couldn't not include this in here for you guys. Now, in that clip there, I do believe that John already had the Klon Centaur on and just was stacking the TS10 into the Klon Centaur for that part. And that's just another great look at how he gain stacks and the difference between the sounds. Now, as far as gravity is concerned for the bass tone, I'm actually not 100% sure what John does. I do believe he's got something else going on in terms of either the Kili Katana is on or the Klon Centaur is on for the tone while he's playing that intro to Gravity, because it definitely sounds like it has a lot more punch to it than just his standard clean tone. So I think there's either a clean boost going on or the Klon Centaur is providing a clean boost with just a touch of light overdrive. I'm not 100% sure what's going on, but I think that's going to lead me into a deep dive on Gravity, and I'm probably going to end up watching a ton of footage from the Sob Rock tour because I don't actually know exactly what John is doing, but I think it's probably one of those two things. So if you guys want to see me do a deep dive on Gravity, let me know in the comments down below. As far as the rest of Gravity is concerned, the Strymon Flint would have been doing the harmonic tremolo throughout the entire song. The solo would have been the classic combination of TS10 into Klon Centaur, possibly a Katana or the Super Clean on for an additional boost. That's totally possible for John to gain stack those three together. And then of course also maybe he put on some reverb. That's just, you know, something he might have done, we don't know. But that's kind of the classic combination that you'd be looking for the tones of Gravity and what John might have used for that song that night. So now we've covered the amps and the pedal board. All we have left to discuss is the guitar, and I've left it for last because I've actually done a whole video dedicated to this new Silver Sky that we saw John using. Now, upon first glance and once the initial videos and footage of this show was coming out, I thought it was a matte charcoal guitar just like the one John had during the Sob Rock tour. Now, we've seen some more photos of it, and it definitely has a bit more of a gloss shine to it than the one John had during Sob Rock era, which was just a total matte finish. So either way, it's a totally new guitar, but this one I think they've just changed it to be a gloss version of essentially the same color. I know initially when I was looking at it, it looked like it was a little bit lighter, but I'm kind of leaning towards that almost being maybe an effect of the gloss nature of the guitar. It's got a bit more reflective quality to it, maybe a bit more metallic as well in the actual finish. And so that's kind of, with the lighting, that's making the guitar appear a little bit lighter, because the two images you guys are going to see on your screen here, I think the actual shade of gray is extremely close. If it's not identical, it's tweaked slightly, but there's not a drastic change that at least I'm seeing here, and I think you guys can agree with me. I think it's definitely the same color, just gloss, and maybe that's what's kind of making the guitar appear to be a little bit lighter, but in reality, I think it's the exact same finish. John's just gone from doing that kind of matte, maybe the matte satin finish like the Mock Sand Satin Silver Sky, now he's moved on to doing a gloss finish. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and that deeper dive I did into the pedals and their context. Hopefully that helped you guys out and proved useful to you guys. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel and you did enjoy today's video, please consider subscribing. It greatly helped me out and just lets me know I'm doing a great job, because hey, you know what? YouTube's going to recommend you my videos anyway for watching it pretty much until the end. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys hit subscribe, give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on this performance as always, because I really do love hearing them from you guys, and it just helps out with the algorithm as well. So it's, you know, a win-win situation for me either way. And until the next time, you guys, thank you so very much for watching today's video. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Anyway, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.